I'm legally insane, and this right here is a stack of new games that I plan to play and beat for a new year. It's 2024, guys, and I've made a list of the top games that I'm going to beat this year. This list is a little unique because these aren't games that I'm going to play. I'm going to be playing a lot of games. These are games I am going to play and complete. I'm going to finish every single one of these games. I made a list last year too, but the list was a little bit too overly optimistic. I didn't come anywhere close to completing the games on that list. I didn't even have time to play all the games on the list that I made last year. 2023, I didn't get much time to play games during that year. It was a very, very busy year, but I've made some changes. And I now have a schedule that allows me to dedicate more time to gaming. So let's get started with number 1. This is a monster hit, Afro Samurai with the slipcover, bitch. You want CIB Afro Samurai? This is my OG copy, by the way. I bought this at EB Games back in the day. This sticker, unfortunately, EB Games put on the slipcover. It came like that, brand new. Brand new. I didn't get this used. I got it brand new. So I don't know why they did that. I'm too scared to even attempt to get it off. But regardless, it's still in mint condition, as you can see. I still have the cracked seal still on it. OG copy. Mint. I keep my games mint condition. I don't know why it's so hard to find Xbox 360 game cases that are actually in good condition. I don't know why. I mean, I know the case is flimsy, but you got to teach your kids to please take care of your games. Every game out here is a work of art. You got to take care of it. Treat it like gold. And some of these go up in value. Check out Afro Samurai. It's going to continue to go up. It's not going to be a $500 game. It's not super ultra rare, but it's a great hidden gem. And more people are learning about it every day that passes. CIB Afro Samurai, single player game, unfortunately. Now, the reason I've got this as my number 1 game that I am finally going to beat. I owned this back in the day, but I never beat it. In fact, I probably got halfway through the game. I'm just estimating. Before kind of moving on. I didn't have the will to go in and finish the game. I was distracted by other games. But Afro Samurai has a very special place in my heart. I have the DVDs. I have the entire, it's like the DVD collection. It's the entire season 1 and the movie, which is season 2. And they canceled Afro Samurai after that. It's a real shame because they had a big plot going. They were diving deep into the Afro Samurai universe. I'm not going to give away the story, but the gist of it is that if you have the number 1 headband, you become a god and you rule the world. However, if somebody, and the only way that you can be killed, so goes the story, or the myth, or the legend, is by somebody who has the number 2 headband. So everyone in the world wants the number 2 headband because you can't challenge the number 1 without the number 2 headband. And Afro's father was the number 1 headband wearer. And a number 2, somebody came along who had the number 2 headband, challenged his father for the headband, and killed his father right in front of Afro. So this is a story. The rest of the story is Afro trying to get his hands on the number 2 headband.
If you wear the number 2 band, then you must fight!
But this movie, or this anime and this game, by default, this game loosely follows the story of the anime. Okay, so it's anime accurate to a certain extent because it is a video game. Okay, it's not going to be exact 1-to-1 match. Okay, but it follows the story of the anime. And it goes into some additional plot that's not in the anime. And that's why I got this game. That is why I originally bought this game back in 2009 when this came out. I bought it when it was fresh off the press. 2009, most likely. Because that's when this game came out. And I wanted more story. Give me more Afro. More Afro Samurai. Now, what I love about Afro Samurai is I like to compare it to Rambo. Okay, I'm a big hardcore Rambo guy. I know Rambo. Nobody knows Rambo more than me. I've seen all the Rambo movies. But I was hardcore into Rambo before Rambo 4, Part 4 even came out. I was big into the Rambo before that movie came out. Okay, because they ended it at number 3 originally. But Rambo is about 90% action, 10% plot. That's what Afro Samurai is. And the game included. In fact, the game is probably 95% action, 5% plot. But the 5 to 10% plot that you get, particularly in the anime, it's very deep plot. It's very good plot. Yeah, sure, the action's great. But I'm not interested in an anime with just action. You got to give me some plot. You got to give me some story. Good story. I don't want garbage story. I'm not a big fan of One Punch Man for that reason. There's no plot going on. Give me something good. So Afro Samurai, I thought about this recently. I said, I got to go back. I'm going back into an Afro Samurai binge. And I was thinking about this game. And I said, I got to go back and I got to beat that game. I got to do it. I have to do it. How can you call yourself an Afro Samurai fan if you haven't beaten the game? So I realized that. And I said, holy hell. I'm out here calling myself an Afro Samurai fan, but I never beat the game. So we can't have that. I'm going to legitimately beat this game. I don't think it'll take too long. I have no idea how long it'll take. If I were a betting man, I would guesstimate 5 hours. So I think this is a realistic, great number 1 to beat this game in 2024.
We both died a long time ago. Afro. We're demons. Ghosts. No one mourned for us. I have to kill you. Then maybe these tears will flow no more. One shrine stands here for every warrior killed in the name of those 2 headbands. Wow.
And guys, if you follow my channel, you already know what number 2 is. You already know. Do I even have to tell you? I've already started playing it. Lost Odyssey. For the Xbox 360 CIB. This is an Xbox 360 exclusive. And believe it or not, this is a 4-disc game. 4 DVDs are in here. 1. That's 1. 2. They got different art on them too. That's pretty neat. 3. And number 4. Last one. This game here is an RPG that you really gotta commit to. JRPG. Great fighting mechanics. They try to add in some unique timing mechanics similar to Super Mario RPG. That type of stuff is just to make turn-based JRPGs more engaged. Okay? And it works. It just adds to the excitement. Keeps your adrenaline going. Makes combat a little bit more fun, a little bit more exciting. Keeps your brain moving at a good pace. But I'm not playing this for the combat. I don't care about the combat. You give me a good story. And this story is about as good as it gets. But there's going to be a lot of reading. If you really want to absorb the story, I'm not going to give it away, but there are letters, and you have to read the letters. You can't skip them. Do yourself a favor, read every letter that shows up. Gist of the story is, though, you play as Khayyam, the immortal here, and he's got amnesia. Something happened. He survived a big battle. There's a huge battle. The cinematics in this game, they advertise the cinematics in this game. I'm going to read you the back of the box here. Photorealistic visuals and cinematics intensify the tension and tempo to take you beyond traditional RPGs. And I'll vouch for that. I'll vouch for that. So this was made by the creator of Final Fantasy, but more importantly, guess who did the music? Nobuo Uematsu, the best, greatest composer of all time since the beginning of history. This guy wrote all the early Final Fantasy music. All of it. He did everything. And many will tell you that his best music was on the chiptune music, 16-bit console type of music. Final Fantasy 6 type of music. Final Fantasy 3 for the Super Nintendo. Here in North America, type of music. Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo. Type of music. Hell, he probably did Chrono Trigger too. I didn't even look that one up. But yeah, let's just say he probably did Chrono Trigger too. The guy is greater than Mozart, Beethoven, and Dr. Dre all combined. That's proof that he's the best composer of all time. And I'm only just, hour and a half into this game. And I noticed a couple things that I picked up on right away. Besides the amazing cinematics. That basically within the first hour, and I'm not exaggerating. You guys think I exaggerate on this channel. You guys think I'm joking a lot of the time. I'm not joking. I had the strong urge, as I was playing the game, to pick up this gun. Point this gun at my own balls. As I'm playing the game, I'm pointing the gun at my balls. I'm playing the game. I'm listening to the music. I'm watching the cinematics. And I'm saying, man, this music reminds me of Final Fantasy music. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, wow, this is incredible music. And, as I'm itching over, I got one hand on my gun as I'm listening. And then I'm thinking, the gameplay here and the storyline here with this magic being used as a form of advancing technology. So technology advancements is coming from magic in this universe. Okay, magic is the Industrial Revolution. And I'm thinking, well, this reminds me of Final Fantasy VI to a certain extent. The Magitech armor, magic becoming this ultra powerful thing. That's what's happened in this universe. Magic is the new superpower. And then it also reminded me of Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy VIII, with that almost steampunk merged with fantasy and magic. So they have advanced technology in Final Fantasy VIII. Well, they've got that in Lost Odyssey. So I was getting Final Fantasy vibes everywhere, and I know it was made by, it's obvious why. Yeah, it was made by the creator of Final Fantasy and has the Final Fantasy composer, greatest composer of all time. But for that reason, I just about pulled the trigger and blew my balls off. But I said, let me just hold off a while longer before I do that. Let me dive deeper into the game before I do it. Don't do it yet. Wait until you beat the game. Then you can blow your balls off. So that's what I'm going to do. Next up, we have a game that made it on last year's list, but I didn't get around to doing it. So I'm focusing a lot. I've got my heavy hitter RPG, and the rest of these games are going to be shorter games. Because like I said, these are games that I'm going to beat. Not that I think I'll be still playing for 150 hours. These are shorter games that I can complete in perhaps one sitting. I've got myself some RoboCop for the NES, one of my favorite NES games of all time. This was a rental back in the day. I rented it at least twice. I know that. Maybe 2 or 3 times. A couple times. Probably borrowed it from a friend once or twice. Could never get very far, but what I really liked about it was that you really felt like you were RoboCop. You move slow. You take a lot of damage. You take a lot of punishment. It just made you feel like you were RoboCop. There are lots of weaponry. It just screams RoboCop. They did a good job on it. No one ever talks about it. It's a very common game. Oh, look at that. Data East. See? Data East makes good games. Now I know why it's a good game. This is an LJN. LJN didn't make this game. Data East, man, that's crazy. I think it's based on the arcade game, if I'm not mistaken. That's incredible. 1988. Data East. That's incredible. So I'm going to beat it. And to be honest, I'm going to be using a Game Genie. There's no other way I could beat it. I'm just going to cheat, get all the weapons. I don't usually like having invincibility on. You know, you still need to take hits and avoid damage. But I like cheat codes where I get all the weapons. Makes it easy. Number 4 on the list. As you guys know, I've been going through a Sega Genesis phase. Sega Dreamcast, and Sega Genesis. And on top of that, I'm now listening to, for the second time, the Console Wars audiobook. And I've already completed previously the Service Games audiobook and a couple other audiobooks on the history of video games. But Service Games in particular focuses on the entire history of Sega. And Console Wars spends the bulk of its time talking about Sega as well. So I am the certified Sega expert. And in case you didn't know, just to prove it to you, Sega stands for Service Games. SE equals service. GA equals games. Service Games, Sega for short. And I'm thinking about Sega a lot lately because I'm listening to this audiobook for the second time. And I was thinking, you know what? Sonic is really what saved Sega. When the Japanese came out with Sonic and actually invented the game, because they were looking for a competitor to compete with Mario. They needed a mascot. They knew that, right? They brought Tom Kalinske in, Sega of America, CEO, to save the company and give Nintendo a run for their money. And one of the calls was, hey, we need a mascot and we need to change the pack-in game. Get rid of Altered Beast. Great game, but you need something more generic that appeals to a wider audience. And long story short, they got Sonic. They hit a freaking gold mine. They got Sonic. Made it the pack-in game, even though the Japanese did not want to do that. They fought tooth and nail to get that game as a free pack-in game. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, in Japan, they might not have even done that. But Sega of America, after fighting tooth and nail, they got approval from Sega of Japan, because technically speaking, Sega of Japan, that's where the head boss was. So Tom Kalinske couldn't really do what he wanted to do without the approval. So he got the approval. Sega was the pack-in game in North America. And the rest is history. Or Sonic was the pack-in game. And I said, you know what, Sonic, such a legendary game, and I've never beaten it. I got to go back and beat it. And I can do it easily now, thanks to the Sega Genesis Classics collection, because I can rewind the game when I screw up. It's an added feature that they have in this Nintendo Switch version. I don't remember if they had that in the Xbox 360 version. I don't think they did. but they do now. So I'm going to beat the OG. I'm not even talking Sonic 2, because Sonic 2 is my favorite Sonic. I'm going to the OG, and I'm going to beat the game. I'm going to find out what it was all about, because that game was legendary back in the day. Legendary. Every kid and their mother knew Sonic, the same way they knew Mario. Speaking of the 8-bit, 16-bit era, I will also finally be completing both versions of Aladdin. This Nintendo Switch updated version has both the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis version. This is the best version of this game, and there's a bunch of poor suckers who previously bought this game and they didn't have the updated version. This is an updated version came out, and it also includes the handheld Game Boy version as well. And the thing about Aladdin, I really like the Super Nintendo version. Everyone says the Sega Genesis version is best. I'm not going to decide until I've beaten them both, and then I'll pick one. But you got to remember, Capcom made the Super Nintendo version. I think people just assume that it's not as good because you don't get a sword. So you don't get to kill your enemies. You have to jump on them like Mario, or avoid them altogether. But we'll see. We'll see. The beauty about Aladdin, if you've never played it, or even if you have played it, I highly recommend you go back and play it again. Because it is a timeless classic. Similar to that of Sonic. But I just don't think enough people talk about Aladdin to this day as a timeless classic. I don't care for Jungle Book or Lion King, to be honest. I like Lion King, but it's too difficult. So it's not for me. I'll play it every now and then. I've never beaten it. I never passed the monkey maze. I couldn't do it. I think I even looked it up online how to do it, and I still couldn't pass those dang monkeys in the trees. I still couldn't do it. Okay, so that was number 5. Number 6 on the list is another returning game that I never beat last year. Super Adventure Island, number 2 for the Super Nintendo. This is one of the best games on the console, still a hidden gem to this day, because people, I think they don't know about it, because I think that they think it's like Super Adventure Island. It's just a continuation, just like the NES games were a continuation of the same style of game. But this is not the same style of game. This is completely different. It's still made by Hudson Soft, very high quality, but it is an side-scrolling action platformer with RPG elements, including an overworld map that you travel around on and explore, just like an RPG, Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III, for example. There are random encounters, just like an RPG. To escape the random encounter, you have to kill all of the enemies or just flee to either side of the level. In some cases, you might have to do that. If you're low health, you will probably try to escape. Plenty of secrets. The game encourages exploration. In fact, many of the levels you will not be able to beat without doing some heavy exploration. I've made it quite far. I'm probably halfway through this game before I took a break previously. I will say one thing, it's not too difficult, but some of the bosses can be challenging. At least one of them, I had to cheat and I went on YouTube. And yeah, probably it was only hard because I suck at these games, but it's still what I would call a newbie-friendly game for old man gamers such as myself, because you just go on YouTube. As soon as I see how somebody else beat the boss, then I know how to do it. I do the same thing with Mega Man games. You know, it's not hard once you've actually seen somebody do it, but I'm not good at picking up on those patterns and figuring out what I have to do without dying. I can't do it. In fact, this is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. One of my all-time favorites right here. Very, very underrated. Very underrated. Last up, number 7. You already know this is on the list. King of Dragons. I put this on the list every year. King of frickin' Dragons, the best beat 'em up ever made. It's 2-player co-op, 5 characters. Elf, Wizard, cleric, dwarf, fighter, all very unique, all with strengths and weaknesses. Wizard, he's weak as hell. He's got no health bar. 2 hits, he's dead. Okay, he's weak. But his attacks, and then his attacks start off weak too. But toward the end of the game, he's the most powerful character. Right? Like, this is classic RPG elements here. Classic. Play this game with a buddy. It's beatable. I don't want to tell you any of the secrets. Okay, hell, I'll tell you one. Okay. All right, it's your lucky day. I'm going to tell you something. There are hidden continues in some of the levels, but I'm not going to tell you how to get them. I found every single one of them on my own back in the day. The first time I found one, when I finally found one, that's when I knew, okay, that means there's more. Those sons of bitches hid those extra continues really well. The average player will go through this game and maybe even beat it, and they will never find those continues. I found it by pure fluke, pure chance, pure randomness. And as soon as I found the first one, I knew, okay, now I'm going to check every nook and cranny on every level, because I know there's more. And I found more. So, here, I just help you beat the game. Because that's not cheating. That's part of the game. If you need those continues to beat the game, that's not cheating. That counts. That counts as a legit, fair completion of this game. I'm also going to give an honorable mention to 2 games that I do not currently own, but if I get my hands on them, I will likely try to beat them this year. Number 1, Unicorn Overlord. It's coming out in March. I will be pre-ordering it. It is an Atlas Vanillaware title. If my memory serves correct, I believe they teamed up with Atlas for this game. And Vanillaware are the guys that made 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, one of the best games ever made. Playing through that game was the very first time I blew my balls off after I beat it. The story is unbelievable. I can't even tell you anything about it because it would ruin it, because there's a lot going on. Vanillaware makes some of the best games ever made. They've proven that now. And that's why I pre-ordered, or will be pre-ordering, the collector's edition, which is $175 Canadian. Because I have that much trust that the game is going to be that good. I'm not waiting for it to come out. I'm not waiting for reviews. It appears to be similar to Ogre Battle. It's a tactical RPG, but is mixed in with exploration RPG elements. And one other honorable mention, if I get my hands on it, is Chrono Trigger. I do not own it. I refuse to play it unless it's on the original Super Nintendo with a Super Nintendo controller in my hand on original Super Nintendo hardware. So if I ever get my hands on a copy of that game, it's very expensive. But I did tell myself that if my investments do well this year, I have a lot of gold stocks, gold mining companies, and I do think that at some point between now and December 31st, I think there's a good chance that gold goes to 2,500 or more. And if that happens, my investment should do well, which would give me some money that I would then feel like I could afford a very expensive game like Chrono Trigger. Because that game ain't cheap. And I don't want to bust a cheap label either. Like, I want a good, crisp label. You know, Adventure Island has a nice looking label. For some reason, I see beat up Chrono Triggers all the time. The labels are always beat up to hell. I'm not buying one of those. Who would want that? Why would you buy that? And I'm seeing like busted labels selling for $300. Like this dirty, disgusting, brown, scratched up, ripped up, torn up, pissed on label for a Chrono Trigger. I've seen people buy it and they'll pay top dollar. But also, that just shows you that the people with the good labels, they ain't selling. And that's why a good label You get a premium for a clean, good condition label. You will get a premium because the people with the good labels, they're in the hands of collectors. Everyone else, the ones with the piss poor labels, they're selling them to pawn shops, selling them to retro game stores, selling them on eBay. The rest of them are in the hands of collectors. Like, if I ever get my hands on one, I'm never going to sell it. It's going to sit on the shelf back here. It's never going to end up on eBay. You will never, as soon as I get a Chrono Trigger, it's off the market permanently. And that's what happens. And that's also why some of the freaking prices keep going up. Every time a hardcore collector like me buys one of these games, it is off the market permanently. It's gone. It ain't coming back. Ever. You know, pending a Black Swan event. Like, I go homeless. Okay. Maybe I'll sell it if I can't afford a storage unit. Maybe. Otherwise, throw them all in a shopping cart, and I'll be walking around homeless with a shopping cart full of Super Nintendo games. Guys, I just want to say this video is unofficially sponsored by Tea Tree soap. Bars of soap from Thursday Plantation. I'm going to put up some links below if I can find them. Unofficially sponsored. And I just want to also throw out there that this soap, it's for your balls. You wash your balls with the soap. Tea tree oil is very good for your balls. Use it for your balls. I'm not a doctor though, so don't listen to me. This is not medical advice. But between you and me, this is for your balls. Look up the health benefits of tea tree. Okay, it's got a lot of like anti-bacterial type of properties. Very, very good soap for your balls. So, link below if you want to pick yourself up one. It helps the channel. And while you're at it, please smash the like button. It really helps with the algorithm because, you know, YouTube doesn't exactly like my channel very much these days. Helps with the algorithm, helps get some exposure to the channel. And while you're at that, how about just think about subscribing? Smash the subscribe button. I try to post a video every week. I haven't missed for an entire year. I post every week. I try not to ever miss. We are trying to get to over 9,000 subscribers, on our way to collecting over 9,000 retro video games. And that includes Nintendo Switch, guys. Nintendo Switch is the only modern console that I have, and it's the only one that I collect for, and it's the only one that I recommend to people. I don't recommend PS4s, I don't recommend PS5s, and I don't recommend whatever the newest Xbox is. Xbox will get a free pass because it plays retro games. So I do recommend the new Xboxes, but not the PS5. They didn't make it backwards compatible. PS4 doesn't count.